The next chapter is environmental assessment and environmental protection. This chapter deals with a number of different topics. First, environmental assessment describes the processes that are used by the federal and provincial government and potentially by your government to assess the effects of major projects. This is something that will likely have relatively little application in your territory, since there are not that many major projects like mines that are likely to be undertaken in the southern Vancouver Island area, at least in the vicinity of your treaty settlement land. However, if a process is undertaken, you will have certain clear rights to participate in those processes, participate in the panel, suggest how the process should be carried out, and to make sure your views are known if there's any possibility that your rights may be negatively affected or your lands may be negatively affected. Additionally, there are provisions that in this chapter that deal with the continuation of environmental protection, that environmental protection laws will continue and will apply to your lands. You'll be able to take advantage of those laws and will also be subject to those laws. Additionally, your First Nation government will have certain obligations to have systems in place in case of environmental emergencies. Finally, there are two large sections that remain to be negotiated between agreement in principle and final agreement. First of all, there is an agreement that there will be a discussion about how smaller projects will be dealt with. Under the old environmental assessment legislation, or at least the federal legislation, smaller projects were assessed even if those assessments were relatively quick and light. Unfortunately, the laws were changed so that those small projects are no longer assessed. And so there's a gap now in the federal law. And in the treaty, we have a provision that essentially says there's going to be a discussion about how that gap will be dealt with, where a smaller project may affect your land. Second, there are substantial areas off treaty settlement land where we believe that the First Nation has a real interest in seeing positive environmental steps being taken to either protect those areas or alternatively improve those areas. So for example, the Souk Basin and Souk Harbor desperately need to be cleaned up, and that's going to involve the coordination of several governments, likely positive action by those governments, and real plans to make sure that that water body returns to a healthy state for shellfish harvesting, for human use, and for fisheries. One of the agreements that we have in the AIP is that between final agreement and principle, we'll identify those areas. We will then negotiate measures to be put in place for those areas, which may be as simple as just clearly stated protection measures that will have to be implemented, or maybe more elaborate, involving processes involving the governments to actually positively remediate those lands over time.